She's pregnant. Look at the heartbeat.
She's pregnant.
Right there.
Oh,
Look
dang.
at the heartbeat.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a heart. It's a baby.
Single.
There's one baby on the right side, Rachel.
Uh-huh.
See the big cavity?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a baby.
Hey guys, it's Rachel with Hobby Farms Magazine, and today I'm here with Dr. Lionel Dawson, who is a professor of veterinary clinical sciences at Oklahoma State University and Langston University. Dr. Dawson's going to explain to us hobby farmers how we can preg check our animals. It's so important for us to know if they are actually bred or not. A lot of us sell lambs and we have wait lists going, and this is a main source of income for our farms. So it's extremely important to know whether our ewes are going to actually be able to deliver on those wait lists that we have going. So today he's going to show us some ways that we can check at our house. We can check our sheep and figure out if they're pregnant, and then also what if we wanted to take them to the vet, how they would check, what that process looks like as well.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to give you a little summary of what, as a hobby farmer or a sheep producer, needs to do for preg checking. Their estrous cycle, or when they are receptive, so from one receptivity to the other is called the estrous cycle. So it's normally around 16 to 18 days, and average around 17 days. And goats are a little bit longer, 21 to 23 days. And normally, majority of the sheep cycle during the fall. They're receptive to the male for about 2 to 3 days. If you can keep an eye on them, if you put a kind of a chin ball marker or some markers on them, so you know when they got marked. So 14 days later, if you change the color on the crayons, then he'll give you another marker so you know when they got bred. So if you have them the ram for 6 months, then it's going to be hard, but if you have them for 2 months, you can change the crayons so you know exactly when they got marked. But the only way you can tell them is this chalk marks on them and say, hey, she got marked blue, then it became orange, it became green. Okay, she got marked, so she didn't get marked the second time. So you'll know if they're coming back or not.
Right.
So non-return rate is a good way. 80% of the time, you're pretty accurate. The other thing is, as a producer, if you really want to know, around 30, 35 days, you can take a blood sample and send it in to the lab, and they're looking for a hormone, or they're looking for a pregnancy-specific protein produced by the embryo. So that's what they're looking at. So if you got these levels up after 30, 32 days, you know they're 80, 90% pregnant. So if you know how to take blood sample, then you can send it in. But it's not 100% because they could be pregnant and then lose it, and the blood test will come positive.
So the blood test is like a bioprint.
Right,
And so you'll buy the test from them, you'll do the test, and then you'll take it to their lab.
Mail it
Or
to
mail
them.
it, right, okay.
It's like $4 or $5 a piece,
Right.
or something like that. The next thing, the best way to do as producer is around, if you just watch the animal, she's gaining weight, 90 to 100 days along, you could probably use a technique called ballotment. Ballotment means you put your fist in the stomach area or abdomen where there's no bones in there. You put it in and see if the baby's kicking you.
Okay.
The baby's got to be big enough to be in the bottom of the belly wall.
Okay.
They cannot be hanging high. That area, there shouldn't be any hard structure.
Okay.
So if you feel something hard, then it's got to be the baby.
Right.
So you're not hitting the bone. A lot of producers have bought some ultrasound equipment, which are not as fancy like I'm going to show you now. Like the pig farmers have a lot of these instruments called Doppler.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doppler doesn't give you an image. It doesn't. It just tells you there's fluid.
Sound waves.
Okay. So they are a lot cheaper. The only thing you can do, they're like $150, $200 the machine, whereas the ultrasound may run $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Right.
Okay. So this machine will just pick up fluid, but it doesn't tell you. You don't see a picture of the baby. You can do a Doppler anytime after close to 60 days. It'll be pretty good. You can do it earlier if you're very good at it. And then what you can do is, when their pregnancy is around 145 days. Definitely the abdomen, the belly is going to get bigger, and it's going to start dropping. I mean, they're going to be dropping on both sides, not on one side. And then what's going to happen is their mammary gland development. It's going to, older ewe, it may, 2-3 weeks earlier, they start developing. The first timers, it may take, they don't develop as much. They still do, but they may be in the last few weeks. Okay? So mammary development.
And that's about a month until they have the baby?
Right.
Okay.
So a month, and then dolings or the ewelings may be within the first 2 weeks. Then the other thing you can do is check the mammary gland, and then if they're closed, you just make sure you clean them up really well, the teats, and then put alcohol, clean them up, and then if you milk them, if the milk or the secretion is usually clear, then it's going to get yellow. Then you know it's called colostrum. Colostrum is there within the last 24, 48 hours.
Oh, okay.
So it's clear, then it may be a little bit chalky, a little whitish. Then the colostrum, 24, 48 hours. Then the other thing you can watch is, if they're getting ready, is look at the rear end. Right around the vulva, there'll be a lot of swelling and relaxation. So the base of the tail, there's 2 bones on the side, on the back, called pin bones, okay? And there's a ligament going right there on both sides. They're usually tight.
Right.
If they're going to be lambing within the last 24 hours, you're going to have a give to it.
Right, so that pelvic
So that's a sacrosciatic ligament. So there's a give to it. So that's another thing you can do. And as veterinarians, normally what they do is, if they're going to do it, they're going to do ultrasound.
At what stage can you start doing the ultrasound?
You can do it as early as 35, 40 days.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to see twins or triplets, the best time to do it is between 40 and 60 days.
Okay.
Because you can see the 3 babies in the same picture.
Right.
After 60 days, the babies get bigger, so then you don't know you're seeing the same baby again or whatever. So if you want to see multiple births 60 days, then it gets easier till about 100, 110 days, and the baby gets really big. You still know they're pregnant,
Right.
but there's not much fluid around it.
Right.
So after 110, 120 days, there's not much fluid. So ultrasound is confirmed. Before ultrasound came in, they used to do radiographs to see skeleton at 90, 100 days. So those are the most common way. And we talked about the blood test. There's another blood test you can do earlier on that. It's called Progesterone Test. It's a blood test.
Right.
If you want to know if they're not pregnant, that test is really good, but you need to do them in the next cycle.
Okay.
Then the other test you do them after 30, 35 days is your bioprim. Those are the 2 blood tests. Then you can do your ballotment, or feeling the skeleton will be another one. Then you can see later on, you'll know the belly's getting big. Look for signs for lambing.
Right. And so something that's important to us is saying, okay, we wanted it to happen naturally. Maybe the ewe wasn't ready. Maybe the ram wasn't interested. But we don't want to go this entire year without being able to lamb. If they are not bred at all, what are our options to make sure that they still have a baby this year?
For me, I think to just rule out, I think an ultrasound will be the best way. Because, you don't want to take a chance saying if she's pregnant, then you're trying to start another cycle, whatever hormones may abort them.
Right.
Okay, you want to make sure. So if they're not pregnant, for sure, then you can use a hormonal protocol to get them to cycle, and hopefully your rams are fertile too.
Right.
So that's something. But if the ram last fall was okay, but if you're not sure if the ram is not, then you need to semen check them.
Okay.
Just to make sure.
So what steps would we take if we learn today she's not pregnant? We want to make sure that she has a baby this year. What would the next step be to bring her into heat?
You can put the cedar protocol, and cedar is a progesterone, and you can leave it in for about 10, 12 days, or 10 days for sure, 10 to 12 days. And then on the day you pull the cedar, you give them a shot of prostaglandin.
Right.
Because you want to rule out that she's not pregnant, because prostaglandin can cause abortion. So then she'll come back in heat. Then you need to watch.
Right.
And then if you can watch them and see if she got marked. And then the other thing is, since you just got 2, then once you got marked, then you can take them out of the ram after 3-4 days, and then put them back in 2 weeks. See if she gets marked again.
Right.
So that's what I would do. See, and that'll give you an idea, you know, if there's any problem with the animal, because the ultrasound will tell you if there's any infection or fluid in that, but it doesn't tell you, you know, why they didn't get pregnant.
Right.
You know, so
Will it tell you how far along they are in the pregnancy?
ultrasound?
Yes. Okay. So without paying attention to marking, if you have a ewe you suspect is pregnant and you do an ultrasound, it will be able to confirm it and also tell how far along they are, so you know when they should lamb.
I can tell in a sheep or goat if they are 50 days, 60 days, 70, 80 for sure. After that, after 100 days, it becomes a little bit tough because they're getting bigger.
Right. But
So-
then the mammograms and other things
Right.
should indicate within a month.
Sure.
Okay. Now that we've gone over some ways to check your animals to see if they're pregnant, you can start looking at the timeline that we're going to list below. You're going to start with making sure that you track their markings, but sometimes you're not exactly sure. You may not have a chalk marker, or maybe you bought the animal and it's questionable whether they were bred or not. So when you don't know what that beginning start date is, you can start using some of these methods further on. If you do know, you can follow the timeline that we're going to list below. All right, so we thank Dr. Dawson for spending time with us today. We appreciate the chance to be able to have a timeline we as hobby farmers can keep at our house and make sure that we are following along with the pregnancy. And to give you an idea, when you need to divert from the natural plan and get involved and maybe use some things to encourage the hormones and get that cycle going for sure.